Hey guys, what is up? Today I wanted to cover my top 10 favorite books on astral projection. If you've studied this topic for a while, you are no doubt familiar with the fact that there are countless books on this subject, and personally I've read over 70, and if I'm completely honest with you guys, I would say probably at least 2/3 of them are just complete garbage, just a waste of time, where the author, I would be willing to bet, has never actually really experienced a projection. It just sounds like they're recycling the same content over and over again from other people's books, rather than speaking from personal experience or really adding anything new to this topic. So I wanted to share my top 10 favorites, and this way at least you've got something to go off of based on what I've found helpful. If you get through this list and you're interested in more, let me know, and I'd be happy to make another top 10 list. I'm going to post a link in the description below to all of the books that I cover in this video in case you're interested in checking any of them out. Alright, so number 1 on my list is one that I've talked about before. It is The Phase by Michael Raduga. This is by far the most practical, pragmatic, step-by-step guide to learning to project that I've found. In fact, I've probably read this one 6 or 7 times. It is especially great if you're just starting out and you need some advice to get you going. As you get going on this book, you get reading it, you'll find that a lot of the content in this book really makes up the foundation of what I present on my channel. The idea of the indirect versus the direct method, the idea of using microsleep to expedite your progress and to induce sleep paralysis. These ideas came from Michael Raduga, and I've sort of tweaked them over time to better fit my own practice, but it has been by far the most influential book that I've read. All right, number 2 is actually not a book. Number 2 is actually a compilation of forum posts made by a guy named Frank Keppel. So for years, Frank Keppel posted to a forum called the Astral Pulse. And, his forum posts sort of show the evolution of his progress, of his practice. And you see him trying different techniques, and you see him learning different things and talking about what works and doesn't work, and you see him giving advice to other people. And at some point he quit posting, and the rumor is that he was ill or maybe he passed away. And at that point, somebody took all of his posts, they compiled them all into a single PDF, and it's about 120 pages long. And what I really liked about Frank's his forum posts were that his practice, his experiences mimic my own experiences far closer than anybody else that I've come across. So there were instances where prior to reading his book, I would get stuck in my practice. I just hit a brick wall and I just couldn't figure out what to do next, and it was incredibly frustrating. Well, I found his book and I read it, and I would see him get to that same brick wall. He would get stuck, but then he would figure out what to do next, and I would do that same thing, and it would work. And so he helped me over a number of hurdles, and just has really great practical advice, and I especially loved it because it just mimicked my own experiences. All right, number 3, 4, and 5 are all by Robert Monroe: Journeys Out of the Body, Far Journeys, and Ultimate Journey. Now, if you're looking for a book that is going to teach you how to project, these probably are not the ones you're looking for. There's some practical advice at the end of the first book. It talks a little bit about how Bob Monroe induces the vibrational state and gets out of body, but even that it's not very detailed, and it's actually fairly vague as to how he reaches these states. What I found interesting and great about these books is that they're incredibly inspirational. So Robert Monroe has more decades of experience out of the body than anybody else that I know of. And reading his experiences, like I said, it's been inspirational to see what he's done and what he saw and what he experienced when he was in that state. And me, just starting out, I'm only 3 years into this, knowing that if I even make half the progress that he did, all of these things that he experienced are things that I potentially could experience as well. So, there's been times where I've just sort of plateaued with my practice, and you get frustrated and you just feel like you just want to quit. When you get to that point, one of Bob Monroe's books is a great one to pick up and read to kind of just keep you going and keep you excited about it. All right, number 6. I would say number 6 on my list is a book called The Dynamic State, and it is by a guy named Brian Slark-Sani. Sorry, I hope I said that correctly. This one I appreciated for a few reasons. It's a good mixture of pragmatic and esoteric advice, so if you're more esoterically minded, you'll find some stuff in there that you maybe be able to relate to. It's got some techniques to get out of body, but one of the things that I found interesting about this book is Brian as a kid, and maybe even today, suffered from severe sleep paralysis, and the scary, debilitating type of sleep paralysis where you're seeing terrifying things. That's something that I've never really had a problem with. Well, not at all. In fact, I have a hard time even reaching that really, really deep state of sleep paralysis. But it was interesting to hear some insights from somebody who has had that, and how they take that problem and they turn it into this positive experience that they can then use to project. So, I know people with sleep paralysis who have no idea that they can take that and they can use it for projection. But if you're one of those people who have suffered from it or continue to suffer from it, this is a good book to see, the point of view of an author who has gone through that as well, and who now uses it regularly to project. So, a really good, interesting book. Next one on my list, number 7, Explorations in Consciousness by a guy named Frederick Aardema. So this is, again, a great book for advice and, ideas on how to project. He's got some unique ideas on basically the origin of the vibrational state, where those vibrations come from. He's got a couple of chapters where he talks about experience verification, which I really enjoyed. If you've been watching my channel, you know that I've tried a number of different experience verification attempts where I tried to prove that I can interact with this physical world, whether that be reading a playing card, reading a dice, or interacting with people. And my experiences have all come back negative. I haven't had success. Actually, what's interesting is that Frederick Aardema, in all of his experiments, he didn't have much success either. In fact, I think it was less than even what chance would give him. But he was meticulous and scientific and very methodical about the way that he did these experiments. And to me, that was very interesting. It was interesting to see somebody else who's got so much more experience than myself, who still struggles to prove that this is anything other than a hallucination. Maybe you could take the approach that this is not a hallucination, that it's real, but that you just can't interact with the physical, which is a completely valid view as well. But anyways, I found that very thought-provoking. So, good book. Next one on my list is the Astral Projection guidebook by a lady named Erin Pavlina. So this one, again, good practical advice on how to get out of body, some good techniques. What I liked about this one particularly is that, again, it mimicked my own experiences. A lot of the things that she talks about that she experiences, again, are things that I experience myself. One of those in particular that I've never heard anybody else talk about is the seeing through your eyelids experience, where when I get to the point where I'm ready to separate or ready to roll out of body, I can see through my eyelids, I can see through my eye mask, and I can see the room surrounding me. And I had never heard anybody else say that. That seemed to be unique to myself. And then I read this book, and she talks about this multiple times, over and over again throughout the book, how she gets to that point and she can see through her eyelids. And so apparently it is it's something that's more widespread than just me. It's always good to find other people's experiences that that mimic your own. So that was another one I enjoyed. Number 9, Adventures Beyond the Body by William Buhlman. All right, so if you're looking for a book that just has a massive amount of techniques to learn to project, this is probably the one you want to look at. In fact, I think William claims that there's more than 40 techniques in this book. I didn't actually count them, but there are a lot. William, aside from Bob Monroe, probably has more decades of experience projecting than anybody else that I know. He actually teaches the out-of-body intensive course at the Monroe Institute. He's the one that at least I believe, the one that coined the term the target technique, the technique where you basically transition to another location as a method of getting out of body. He also talks a lot about using commands and demands to increase clarity and lucidity of experiences, to deepen and maintain these experiences, which that's something that I use regularly as well. So a lot of really great advice, a lot of really great techniques if you're interested in just seeing a ton of techniques all in one book. Another really interesting thing that he talks about is he talks about past life regression, and he talks about experiences where he's seen past lives of his own. One in particular, he was in an army, I believe as a tank driver, I think in World War II, and how he can see in his own life today things that came from, or interests, or ideas that originated from that previous life, which I thought it was really interesting. It's something I've never experienced. I've never experienced any sort of past life anything. So again, another one of these that's his is more inspirational and helpful, but it's something that hopefully gives me some idea of what I've got to look forward to as I continue my practice. All right, finally, last one on my list, number 10, Projection of the Astral Body by a guy named Sylvan Muldoon. So this one's interesting for a few reasons. This one was written in 1929, and it is probably the earliest book that I've read that is devoted completely to projection. There's a number of other books far older that talk about projection, here and there, but this is probably the earliest one I've read completely devoted to the topic. Now, Sylvan Muldoon, he talks more about the silver cord, and actually was the first one to talk about the silver cord that I am aware of. He actually talks about measuring it. He talks about the width and the length, and how it gets thinner as it stretches out longer. He talks about, I think he's the one that came up with the dehydration technique to project. He talks about how he would dehydrate himself all day long and even eat salt before he goes to bed and just make himself incredibly thirsty, and that this would trigger a projection as his astral body would be so anxious to relieve this intense thirst that it would get out of body and then go and try to get a drink from the sink, and then at that point realize that he's out of body. He also talks a bit about experiences projecting when he's ill or sick versus well, and how that impacts his practice. He's got sort of a different take and a different approach on everything, and it may be just due to the time period that he lived in, so I found this one to be very interesting as well. Alright, so that is my top 10 list. If you've got any questions, please let me know. If you've come across any other great books on projection, let me know that as well. I'm always looking for something else to read on this topic. Like I said, if you get through this list and you want some more, let me know that as well. I'll come up with another video and give you another 10. So until then, like, comment, subscribe, help me build this community. I will talk to you guys again soon.